I'm Rob.
And I'm Nate.
And welcome back to Rob and Nate Record a Podcast.
It is week 4 of December 2022. Will it get out in time?
Yes.
Movie month. And it was my selection this week. I had told Rob back in the early stage, I've got two things I kind of want to do. One's a TV movie and one's Canadian. He's like, do both. So we did both. We watched our TV movie last week with the Walton Family Christmas. And this week we watched the Canadian thriller, The Silent Partner. The story of a man who figures out that his bank is about to be robbed and figures out a way to rob it himself and blame the prospective robber.
Now, we should clarify, this is not exactly a Christmas movie.
Yeah, technicalities. It's time for you to gush about my movie. What are your first impressions?
It has kind of that timeless quality to it. The film is, there's parts of it that are a little bit dated, but again, it has that timeless quality. Like, it didn't feel that, outside of some of the things like the paper records in the bank, it didn't feel that out of date.
No.
And it was fun. It was, some of these actors, I had not seen a lot of their stuff when they were younger.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is the youngest thing I've seen Elliot Gould in. Christopher Plummer, when he first came on the screen, Christopher Plummer, the lesser Max von Sydow. When he first came on the screen, I didn't recognize him because I haven't seen him in a lot of things when he was this young. And so that was kind of fun. His character is, I liked that ending.
Oh, this is a guy you don't want to mess with. He's a seriously strong villain.
Yeah. Even the smaller, a lot of the smaller bit parts were still good in this.
Most notably, a very young John Candy as a security guard. I think that's his position at the bank.
No, John Candy?
Yeah.
His name is Simonson. He actually just works in the bank.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but he's supposed to work in the back, but he comes to the front because Louise is there.
Yeah, he likes Louise, who eventually will cuckold him. I don't think I've ever used that word on the podcast, but It is what happens to him in this film. Any other opening thoughts before I tell you how I became aware this thing even existed?
No, I'm intrigued.
Okay, so winter 2020, Christmas time 2020, I'm scrolling through Facebook, and I like movie stuff, so I'll get things on my feed that are related to movies. There was a little article that said, this year, don't watch Die Hard, watch The Silent Partner. I'm like, what? So I looked at it. I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. I think I'll watch that. I watched both movies that year and again this year.
Yeah.
This is, there's that saying, well established, that Charade is the best Alfred Hitchcock film that Alfred Hitchcock didn't direct. This is the second best.
Okay.
This is a very Hitchcockian thriller. It's about a guy who's just happens to be in the right place or wrong place, the right time or wrong time. And he sees an opportunity. He sees this Santa Claus. Something's weird about him. Doesn't seem to like kids. He's really paying a lot of attention to the bank. He finds this note,
like the carbon copy.
Carbon copy, like that he had gone in and like had practiced writing. I have a gun, hand over your money. And he puts this together, and he realizes there's this guy that brings in big deposits to the bank, and the Santa Claus comes in with the intention to rob at that time.
But he realizes that when he's at lunch and sees the Santa watching the businessman come by.
Yeah. But the Santa Claus is interrupted because of this kid that keeps wanting to talk to him because he's a Santa Claus.
Well, and the funniest part about that is that the kid has asked Santa for a BB gun, and he's like, look, he's got my present in his pocket because he's carrying my gun.
And so that freaks the Christopher Plummer out, so he leaves. But that pretty much solidifies in Elliot Gould, who's our lead, Miles Cullen, in his mind what the intention is here, and he comes up with this scheme where he takes the money and puts it in his briefcase, his lunchbox,
and then
which he later puts in his briefcase, and he's doing transactions out, kind of underhanded outside of this until Christopher Plummer comes in, and then he gives him, what little money is in the actual register, and Christopher Plummer runs away.
Did you catch how much money it was?
It was, I forget.
It was $1,165.
Okay. And Christopher Plummer gets away, but he watches the news, and he learns that the amount stolen was 48,500 Canadian dollars in 1977.
48,385.
Okay. And he realizes what has happened, and he tracks down Miles and harasses him over the phone from a phone booth outside of his apartment, and breaks into his apartment, and eventually Miles outsmarts him again.
Well, but even before that, Miles is basking in the attention that has come with this robbery.
Yeah, so this is where kind of the things to talk about delve into to two paths. And so one is the relationship that he has over the course of the film with Christopher Plummer's Raquel, is what he's credited as. And this rivalry of Elliot Gould continuing to outsmart him, and he gets him so he's in prison for a while, and then he gets out, and he's got this scheme to get his revenge and get the money. And then what this does to Miles' persona and to his sense of self, because when they introduce him, he's got to be around 40. He's the lead teller at a bank in a mall in Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Vault teller.
He's the vault teller. So, you know, he's not particularly accomplished. He's not very social. He has a heck of a nice apartment, which I envy. And he keeps tropical fish. Like, that's his, like, defining characteristic before the robbery. But once the robbery happens, all of a sudden everybody's, like, interested in him. And the girl that he likes at the bank, Julie, played by Susanna York, Julie starts to pay attention to him. Other people start to pay attention to him. And he starts feeling a confidence that he's never had before. And eventually that transfers to the second love interest, who is
Elaine, played by Celine Lomez.
Celine Lomez, who apparently was a pop star, from what I read.
Oh, really?
And I don't think she did very many movies. And so there's that kind of complicated, because she's actually sent in by Christopher Plummer to kind of seduce the information out of Elliot Gould. But she ends up falling for Elliot Gould because he's much nicer than Christopher Plummer, who rapes and beats a woman early in the film.
They say it's a
teenager.
Yeah.
In a jacuzzi at a steam room.
It's credited as the girl in sauna, played by Nancy Simmons.
Yeah. He's a monster. He's a violent man.
So Celine Lomez, she acted primarily for about 11 years, but then she had another stint in the mid 80s, and then again did another film in 1997, and then she actually appeared in a film as recent as 2017.
Okay, so kind of sporadic actress.
Yeah.
She's quite pretty.
Yeah.
As is Susanna York. And so, I mean, he comes from zero romantic prospects to two very attractive romantic prospects. And that's part of the mystery of the film, is who is he going to end up with? And the decision's kind of taken out of his hands.
Yeah.
When, spoiler, one of them is murdered.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy this film. It's such an out of nowhere thing.
Yeah. This was not even on my radar. You said you saw this first in 2020?
2020, yes.
We were not necessarily quite reporting our movie watching as regularly to each other at that point. So I don't think I even remember you. I mean, maybe you told me about this.
I'm sure I mentioned it, but, I've mentioned so many movies that they don't always keep. Yeah.
Especially one from 1976, was it?
78.
78, yeah.
How about that 1970s work party, Christmas party they go to? It's like, there's a lot of stuff that happened both there and in the work environment you couldn't do now.
Well, so there was the work party, and then there was also Louise's party.
Oh, yes, Louise's wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were several things in that work party that would not fly today.
Yeah. There's this subplot about Elliot Gould's father, who's basically catatonic in a nursing home. And he passes away, and they use the funeral, which happens several months after Christmas, in the spring probably, as an excuse to introduce the Elaine character. I used to nurse your father, and he loved you so much. And of course, Elliot Gould knows his father doesn't talk, and so he immediately knows something's up with this lady. But she keeps finding ways to bump into him, and they start socializing and seeing each other, and she's his date to John Candy's wedding, and then they sleep together. Only after that point does he confront her that I know something's up. One of the dynamics there, I was trying to think of something similar to what happens to the Elliot Gould character in terms of character transformation. The thing that I hit on is Martin Freeman in season 1 of Fargo. He's a timid man that circumstances, he does something he didn't think he was capable of, and he gains an ego from it and a sense of confidence he never had before. Of course, Elliot Gould doesn't become the monster that Martin Freeman becomes, but he does let illegal activity pump his sense of self up.
Well, and I'm challenging you slightly on that. Okay. He doesn't become the monster. I mean, not to the extent that Martin Freeman does.
He didn't kill people. Well, doesn't he? Kind of indirectly.
Yeah.
He makes sure that when they make this arrangement at the end where Christopher Plummer is going to come in to take the money because he's already killed Elaine, and he goes off script and comes early. He is dressed in drag,
which was an impressive scene.
Yeah, and I like the way he's always touching his hair. I thought that was pretty funny. And I forget what it was. There's something that just pisses. Oh, it's when he says, "I'm going to come back." It's like, you're going to be seeing more of me. It's like, well, really? Why? It's like, well, just guess. It's like, okay. And then he rings the alarm. Triggers the silent alarm.
Well, first he hands him something like it's a receipt.
Yeah.
But it's a note saying, "I have a gun." Mm-hmm. And then he triggers the alarm. And that's as Rico, played by Christopher Plummer, picks up the note, realizes what's going on, that he's framing him. He's already set off the silent alarm. The guard's been alerted. And so the guard And
the guard wants to make good for what he failed to do the last time. He wants to get this guy.
And so Christopher Plummer shoots Elliot Gould's character, so Rico shoots Miles Cullen. And then the guard shoots Rico, who flees the bank, and the guard pursues him, shoots him again. And Rico tries to get Miles Cullen back by telling the guard that he gave him the bank's money. And the guard's response is, "Yeah, what'd you expect him to do? Give you his own?" Yeah.
Yeah, this is fun, and this is it's kind of out of left field. It's charming. It's Canadian.
It is very rated R.
Yeah.
So if we have listeners who are sensitive to that, this one is rated R for gratuitous stuff. There's not an excessive amount of language, but there is some nudity and there is some violence.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Some gratuitous violence.
We got some trivias
in just a moment. I didn't see box office returns, but this had a estimated budget of 2.5 million Canadian dollars.
It has a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic of 76, and 7.9 on IMDb, which is very healthy.
Well, I thought I saw 7.5, but yeah. Star Elliot Gould held a private screening for legendary suspense thriller director Alfred Hitchcock, who apparently loved this.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. This would be very late in his life.
Yeah, these are coming from the trivia section of IMDb. The only ever dramatic theatrical feature film to be scored by jazz pianist and composer Oscar Peterson, who coincidentally was a schoolmate of lead actor Christopher Plummer.
Huh.
One of the Canadian films to be developed and financed by the first Canadian films to be developed and financed by the Canadian government's Capital Cost Allowance Program, controversial for being a tax shelter scheme.
Oh.
Thriller writer Christopher Hansen's first successful suspense movie. Hansen would go on to write and or direct such thrillers as L.A. Confidential, The Bedroom Window, and The Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
I recognize that name in the credits.
Yeah. This is mostly for Nate. The main location for this film, shown in the opening shot, is the Toronto Eaton Centre, a mall and office tower complex. It was opened a few months before the movie was shot, and as of 2015, it was still the most visited shopping mall in North America.
Wow.
The bank branch was real, but the name was fictional, and was located on the first level near a small fountain that has since been removed. The Anchor department store and the complex's namesake, Eaton's, went bankrupt and closed in 1999. Alternate casting for the role of Harry Rekel.
All right.
Right
on me.
Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger.
That might have worked, actually.
I wouldn't have liked that as much, I don't think. I don't think Mick Jagger has the menace that Christopher Plummer can.
I would have liked to seen Mick Jagger in the drag. That part would have worked.
I kind of have this feeling that somewhere out there is footage of Mick Jagger in drag.
Probably. Director Daryl Duke walked off the film due to creative differences. Curtis Hanson, who had originally intended to direct the film, took over the remainder of the shoot as well as the pickup shots and handled all of the post-production of the film.
Wow.
So it is still credited to as having been directed by Daryl Duke. In IMDb, it does give a directing credit to Curtis Hanson, but lists him as uncredited. The name of the black and yellow colored rare species of fish that Miles Cullen bought was Holocanthus tricolor, which is more normally commonly known as a rock beauty or butterfly fish, not an angelfish as he references. The American DVD for the movie arguably implies two false story elements. First, the banknotes seen on it are USA bills, but the picture is a Canadian production with Canadian notes seen in the movie. Second, three characters are dressed in black and white gangster-like garb, implying a kind of Reservoir Dogs gang, which the movie clearly does not have. We didn't see those in the... We must have seen the Canadian version.
Yeah, Canadian cover art.
Miles' car.
Okay.
It's a 1970 Triumph TR6.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah. Elliot Gould's character, Miles Cullen, hides the money in a Superman lunchbox. Do you know the other Superman connection?
I know.
Co-star Susanna York played Superman's mother in the first two Superman movies from 1978 and Superman 2 from 1980.
Well, so they would have filmed this right within a year of each other, this and Superman 1.
This movie is considered a Canucksploitation film.
Yeah. Hey.
That's a good name. The amount of money that bank teller Miles Cullen swindled out of bank robber Harry Rekel was 48,350 Canadian dollars. This would equate to 176,132 Canadian in 2020, or $138,341 US. The picture's story element of a heist at Christmas time formed the background for the first few films of the Die Hard film franchise. The film was controversial. This is a spoiler and also a trigger warning moment. The film was controversial for its grisly murder involving the jagged edge of a glass aquarium. This sequence has been said to be one of the most graphically violent scenes in a Canadian movie and contributed to the picture's various 18-plus censorship classifications around the world, which would have been appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I'd seen this once before, and it still shocked me when it happens. Oh, I forgot about that. Very violent death.
Yeah. I think that's all that's worth sharing out of the trivia section.
Did I impress you? What did you think? How would you rate The Silent Partner?
I was gonna go slightly out of order, but I'll back up. I think this is an 8-star movie, 3 and 8.
I'm giving it 3.5 and 9.
Yeah, so we're not too far apart.
Yeah, I think it's very impressive.
Its violence kind of holds it back a little bit. At least that, in particular, that one murder scene. Yeah. That's pretty grisly.
But it's clever and it's smart, and you really like the lead character, and it's just a little out of left field, and it's got one of the best movie villains ever. I mean, Christopher Plummer is just so intimidating in this. Well,
and effective for how, like, what percentage of the movie he's actually in, because he's gone from a big chunk of this in the middle. Now going further forward, this is number 1 for the month.
Yes. I think we're probably going to have similar ratings. To review first our films for the month, whereas Home Alone 2, The Christmas Train, Homecoming, A Story of Christmas, a.k.a. Walton Family Christmas, and The Silent Partner. So your ratings are The Silent Partner at 1, and then go down from there.
Well, A Christmas Story, the Walton Christmas movie, then Home Alone 2, then The Christmas Train.
Yeah, I was exactly the same.
I was not impressed at all by The Christmas Train. I was impressed enough by what's the actual title of the Walton one?
The Homecoming, A Story of Christmas.
Yeah. I was impressed enough by that I went and watched the 2021 Walton Family Christmas, made by the WB.
The CW.
CW, which had some similarities and some nice elements, but they tried too hard to make it pretty. And so it pulls itself out of a Depression-era film because everyone's dressed really nice. The house is nice. The store is nice, And it just, they overplayed it a little bit. It did have some charms, but it wasn't the same. And, spoiler, the CW kills off John Boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that the best Christmas movie we watched was the one least about Christmas.
Well, so I was going to make some parallels between this and Die Hard. This is a Christmas movie in the same way that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and that is that it is tangentially Christmas. It's not actually a Christmas movie, which you and I will disagree on. Like, the Christmas is such a small relevance of this movie. Like,
it's the first half.
It's not even the first half.
Yeah, roughly the first half.
Just through the robbery.
No, the robbery, and then afterwards...
They have the Christmas party.
They have the Christmas party and the cat and mouse between Christopher Plummer and Elliot Gould.
But that's after Christmas.
No, it's not. It's not up until Christmas Eve. Is that when they?
The robbery is on Christmas Eve.
No, the robbery is like several weeks. The robbery is on December. So the opening of this film is today.
December 14th.
It's December 15th.
Yeah.
So today in 1978.
Actually, it does open on December 14th, and then they changed the date.
They had just changed. Well, that's because they gotten in for the day, and they're just changing it from the web.
I thought they were changing it at the end of the day for the next day.
No, I don't think so. That's not the impression I got. But the robbery happens like 2-3 days later, and then they have the Christmas party. A good portion of this film is in December. Yeah. Now, how about we settle on that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everything from the wedding on is clearly not.
It's clearly... I think they skipped for probably around 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, because they're having trouble continuing to cover up.
Yeah, we can't cover this up much longer. Yeah, too much celebrating at Christmas
with Fogelman, I believe it was Jack Duffy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this was fun. This was a good one. I'm kind of intrigued by how the month played out. Christmas Train was intended to be a representative sample. I don't think we got the best sample on that. Home Alone 2, we knew what we were getting going into it, but it was nice to do a 30th anniversary. But yeah, yours were the better 2 picks this month.
Claiming my title.
I had to back up on my laurels a little after October. I was riding too much of a high. So, yeah.
But yeah, it was a good month. It had some good ones in it. This still is the highlight, The Silent Partner, and it's a film that it's only the second time I've seen it. I could definitely watch it again. But I was watching it this time, and I was looking at Elliot Gould's various suit coats, and I was thinking, you know what? I missed my time.
Yeah?
I missed my time.
I've been telling you that for forever. What was my Christmas gift to you last year, Nate?
Ah, yes. It was a smoking jacket.
Yeah. Nate missed his period.
Yeah.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Nate.
And this is Rob and Nate Record a Podcast.
Come on. I pushed the button. Come on. Hello. Hello.
Oh, I haven't sent it over yet.
Okay.
Are you going to go see The Way of Water?
You mean Smurf Cats 2 Aqua Cats?
I forgot about that. I think I'm going to go see it.
I think I probably am too.
I thought you said you were, at one point said you weren't.
Oh, I'm are we recording?
I think so. This is not me trying to set you up.
Okay. No, it's just if I'm going to do decent stuff, I want to know that it's being recorded.
Hold on, I'm waiting for it to... Yeah, it's running.
Right. I had heard that the reviews were mixed, but it's got an 82%. That's not mixed reviews. Those are positive reviews.
I was hearing good reviews of it thus far. My underlying thing, and I think I told you this once before, I thought the original Avatar was being overhyped, and so I didn't go see it in theaters.
Oh, and you regretted it?
Well, then when I saw it, I was like, wow, this was awesome. Imagine how much more encompassing this would have been on the big screen. And so I don't want to underrate it and miss out. So
I had told you before that one of the main reasons I would want to go see it is because of one day. It was a Sunday morning, December of 2009, and I think my brother woke me up.
Oh, yeah.
With a phone call. You gotta see Avatar. So I'm like, do that. See it in honor of my brother, because he'd want to see it.
So I'm going to back you up a little bit. You said he woke you up at what time?
I forget when, but
I thought you said like 9 a.m. and I'm
it
like,
was
wait
like
a
9
minute.
a.m. or something like that. And yeah.
So before we started the movie, I was booking that thing. Mm-hmm. So it was our Christmas gift to our in-laws.
All right.
We have started for most Christmas gifts. We want to do experiences, like things that people will remember, cool experience type thing. Mm-hmm. You are possibly the main exception to that.
Oh, okay.
Because you are someone whom I can still fairly readily find something to give to who would genuinely appreciate receiving a thing.
Okay.
So I swung for the fences last year. Well, not swung for the fences, but I took a pretty good shot last year.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm intrigued to see what you will ultimately think of this year's Christmas present.
Teaser that won't be paid off in this episode.
No, it will not be paid off in this episode.
Paid off in
It'll be
May.
paid off in a little bit more than a week. Well, we'll find something to record about.
All right.
So, or in
the year in review, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. So
one of the things you may have noticed on the list of things, because we don't usually record these at my place, we did tonight, is on my Prime, I had a film called Dames that I have rented and not yet seen.
Okay.
I had never heard of Dames until recently. I saw a video of film directors talking about their favorite films of all time, and Edgar Wright, best known for Shaun of the Dead and Baby Driver, named this obscure musical from the 30s called Dames as one of the 10 best movies of all time. I was like, I gotta see it.
Yeah.
It's like Joan Blondell. I love Joan Blondell. Busby Berkeley, apparently choreographed. But there's so many more bigger name musicals like 42nd Street or Broadway Melody that you could put if you wanted to have something in that category of a Depression-era musical. But he chose Dames, so I'm curious.
Okay. We about ready?
I think so.
What's your favorite Christopher Plummer film?
I'm drawing a blank.
Are you?
There's none come to mind. I haven't filled that category in my brain files.
I asked you that question without having anything in mind myself, so kind of anticlimactic.